Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter where you are in this fine planet of ours. I am so glad that you have decided to spend some time with us today. My name is Daryl Braille. I shall be your host, moderator, facilitator, and all around organizer today. And I'm going to be joined by two fine men, Robert Wynn and Jim Stern, both well published individuals with strong opinions and definite expertise on this little thing we call the social media rodeo. So let's get right into it. As you can see from the little icon in the upper right corner of the screen, our format is 29 minutes. And what that means in the next 29 minutes, we're going to hammer through about 5 key discussion points as it relates to this. And this conversation is really a social media for and social media against discussion. But if you can stay beyond 29 minutes, we will, in fact, be taking Q&A and doing that Q&A after the 29 minutes are up. So what does that mean for you? That means you can participate in one of two ways. One way is to actually submit questions, and you can do that on your control panel. We use the GoToWebinar technology, and if you'll notice in your control panel, which is probably located in the upper right-hand corner, you can simply go down to questions and pop them in there. So Jim or Robert or I say anything that's just amazing, compelling, anything that just evokes you to ask a question, that's where you do it. And of course, you can also ask questions, speaking of social media, on Twitter. And we simply ask you use the phrase #socialrodeo. So that's the first way you can participate. The second way you can participate is using social media. So definitely use that hashtag password phrase, but also go out there and give us your opinions, your thoughts, your feedback. Share it with the world. If you think we are full of hot air, put it out there. We want to hear. Conversely, if you think we are right on, spot on, we want to hear that too. If you like Robert's point of view, say that. If you like Jim's point of view, say that. So that's the show. We're very excited. Myself, I mentioned Daryl Prale. My job here at OnPath is to make sure you get the content you need that educates you in a format that you like. And we do that. And check out our site. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you'll like, including a ton of archive content. But more importantly are the guest speakers we have today. So let's bring up Robert Wynn. As you can see here, Robert is a communications executive with more than 20 years experience in strategic marketing, public relations, event planning, and journalism. Some of his clients include MIT, UCLA Law School, and Ferrari Maserati. That's a nice one. Robert was a reporter for the LA Times. He has a master's degree in communications from the University of Texas, and he writes for Forbes.com. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Daryl. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited you're here. But for every yin, there's a yang, and that yang today is Jim Stern. Let me tell you a bit about Jim. He's an author, speaker, and consultant. He's the author of Social Media Metrics, the founder of the eMetrics Summit and the Digital Analytics Association. So if you're at all aware of, anything to do with online tracking information, measuring, Jim goes way back. That's not to say Jim is old. Don't let the picture fool you. He is one of the top 25 hot speakers, according to the National Speakers Association. And since 1994, Jim has been simplifying the complexities of online marketing in front of large audiences and for major corporations. So question number one, and for those who don't have context, if you want to, while we're waiting here, go out and Google, Jim's name or Robert's name. And what you're going to find is some interesting articles they both posted. One I know was written by Robert on Forbes, and it was his point of view that potentially social media is a waste of time. Now, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but let's let him start off first. Let's just set level number one. I want to know, Robert, is social media a waste of time?
It is. And I think mostly for public relations, it's a waste of time. It's great if you want to put up pictures of your daughter in her 4th birthday, which is my daughter today turns 4. And so I've already, been ahead of the curve and done that. I think it's good if you want to do research to find people, especially on LinkedIn. That's very good. I think you're wasting your time and you're turning off your audience by putting a lot of press releases on Facebook, which I work a lot in higher education. And so I see many universities posting press releases on Facebook, and it kind of turns off the audience. Same thing with Google Plus. I get a lot of really long, boring diatribes on what's happening in Europe and the debt crisis and ways that everyone can join discussions, and it seems like it's almost a turnoff. I think all roads lead to email, and that's usually the best introductory method to introduce yourself or pitch a story or talk about your service or make an introduction. And then I think Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn are great for doing research. But the fact about publicizing and using LinkedIn or Facebook as a free press release or free event type of service, it doesn't really work that well.
All right. Now, we seem to have lost Jim momentarily, and some might suggest that's not a bad thing. But I say that only because...
Well, Jim has sent a text saying he pretty much agrees with everything I've said. So,
oh, there he is. Jim, you're back. Okay, you've heard it. Social media is a waste of time. That's not what he said. He said social media is good for certain aspects, not for issuing press releases, not for harassing your target audience. You heard what he said. So let me ask you, do you agree? I mean, is your point of view social media is a waste of time?
I agree that social media done badly is a waste of time. I believe that driving down the freeway done badly is a waste of time. I think spoons are a horrible waste of time if you're eating spaghetti, and forks are useless for eating soup. But social media has an important place in communicating with your audience. If all you do is publish press releases, boy, Robert is right on the money. Waste of time. Do not post press releases up on Facebook. Who are you kidding? But if you're interested in communicating directly with your customers and your audience, and being a member of an online community, then it's a great thing. So, yes, I agree with Robert. Done badly, waste of time.
Robert, is it done badly most of the time, or do you think it's just a waste of time?
I think it's done badly so often that the few people, and Jim is probably in the 1%, and the rest of us are on Occupy Wall Street, disagreeing with him. But he's probably the 1%, and the rest are a bunch of hipsters wearing pork pie hats and ironic T-shirts and skinny jeans and hanging out in coffee shops.
Don't forget the goatee.
And the goatee, yes, and the bedhead, and telling people it's just such an extreme form of narcissism.
Jim,
most of the web and social media. I think that those that can build a community and engage a community, I mean, obviously the Arab Spring would probably be a good example, but I think that's just so incredibly rare, and that so many things are, just done directly with email now. I think all roads are leading that way.
Jim, in support of what Robert is saying, I do have to acknowledge that the sheer noise of people doing social media bad makes it very difficult to use for good.
Yeah. So let me reiterate: doing it bad is a waste of time.
Okay.
Putting up a bad website is a waste of time. Sending bad email is called spam. Doing telemarketing bad will get you arrested. Bad marketing is bad marketing. Bad PR is bad PR.
So
social media is great for some things, but for press releases, not so much.
All right, so you're saying it can be used for good in there. So we'll drill down into that shortly because I want to drill down that more. Now, Robert, maybe for context and without taking too much time here, maybe you can share with the audience just what happened recently when you, the article you wrote and what the reaction was you got.
I wrote an article on Forbes.com. You can just look up under Forbes.com, Robert Wynn, and then is social media a waste of time? And without any lead generation or stumble upon or dig or anything like that, just organically we have almost about 7,000 readers so far. And of the 13 comments, I think probably 7 were against me. Just calling me a dinosaur and things like that. And, our candy bar company or our so-and-so, and we know how to do it and this and that. And, don't be like a 1970s guy sending out a lot of faxes. I just think that there's so many people that just have a blind trust in, I guess, in marketing and public relations. I'll lump them together. That social media is a magic app that you can just find it and send it and, do like you would do with a PR news wire or business wire. And they'll have some sort of magical algorithm and it'll get on Yahoo Finance and Google News and things like that. And it's so common now. Unless there's some sort of multi-million-dollar campaign behind it, like the guy on the horse with Old Spice, and people can play games or make predictions or do something that engages them. The social media isn't really going to do much, and I think General Motors recently stopped advertising on Facebook, and I don't think they've sold one less car because of it. It's not.
Well, that's probably.
I think it's yeah.
That's probably a good segue. I mean, the whole point is really about, from this audience, especially in the webinar today, social media in the context of can it be used to drive increased revenue. So maybe I'll flip it to you, Jim, and you can give us some examples of how it's done right. So how are some companies using social media to generate sales leads? But then I'll flip it back on you to our earlier comment. Are they good leads or are they just noise? So give us some of your experiences.
If you're doing it well, they're good leads. So the correct answer to how to do it well is it depends on what you're selling and who your audience is. If you are selling candy bars, it's tough. You've got to be out there showing the brand flag without being seen as advertising or pushing people. But if you're Dell Computer, they've got dozens of different Twitter feeds. So, for instance, you can sign up for a Twitter feed that is selling, and I mean selling. All they're doing is putting up offers for refurbished equipment. If you need 20 of this type of PC that's been refurbished, click now, and we've got them in stock, and we can ship them overnight. Well, purchase agents at large corporations are watching that all the time because they need to buy 20 of this and 30 of that, and for them, it's saving them a bunch of money. There's also, of course, customer service, which is an incredible, valuable tool to use Twitter for or Facebook to listen to your customers and respond in real time. Now, the first thing that everybody should be doing is monitoring the conversation out there. So if somebody says something good about you, you can say, hey, thanks. And if they say something bad about you, you can say, gosh, I'm so sorry, how can we fix it? And that becomes part of call it the background noise. It becomes part of your brand. So when somebody Googles you, they're seeing, well, not only do you have a website, but you also have a social media presence and you're participating in the conversation. If you're just spreading buy now messages, your brand is going to be tarnished. If you're just sending out press releases, people are going to turn you off right away. So the people who are doing it well are engaged in the conversation. This is where we really need to focus on the word social and less on the word media. It's not broadcast. It's a conversation.
So is this more so, I mean, if I infer what you're saying, it's done really well on a B2C audience, as it not so much on a B2B audience?
Oh, it works well on both. But it's not advertising. It's not public relations. It's conversation. I will draw everybody's attention to today's Hilbert cartoon. If you want to surf over there, the social media expert is talking to the pointy hair boss. If you give me lots of money, I'll do various vague things to increase your web traffic. And, of course, the pointy hair boss gets all excited. Are a lot of people out there doing it bad? Oh, yeah. Does that mean it's bad? No. I'm reminded of Edward Tufte, who is a design god. He's written some fabulous books. I recommend them. Edward Tufte wrote a 10-page PDF about how horrible PowerPoint is. And PowerPoint is destroying us as a nation. Well, the pencil is a terrible thing because people can write bad words with it. Bad PowerPoint is bad. Good PowerPoint is good. So I'm ranting and repeating myself. Back to you,
Robert. Is he digging himself a hole? I mean, or is he right? Right, and from your point of view, and I'm really more so interested in the B2B side here. Are these good leads, or for the most part, is it just noise? And if I've got a finite budget, should I make an investment here?
I would only make an investment if it leads back to your website, or it leads back to someone that can actually comment. I know a friend of mine, she and her partner represent Korean Air, which is a huge privately held corporation. And the way they use social media is two things. Is defensively, they monitor it, or they pay someone to monitor. So if someone's had a terrible flight or wants to say something bad, or the food was terrible, they lost their luggage in the Philippines or something, that there's someone to monitor it and to get back with them, within minutes, so it doesn't go viral. And the other thing is, they'll post something about a new item of food, or the new jumbo plane, or the new seats, or more movies online. They'll be very specific, and it'll just show the benefit, either on Facebook or LinkedIn or Google Plus, and then link back to. I mean, people can join. So, say you like Korean Air or something, or you want to know more about prices, whatever, and then it leads you back to the website. I think that's always more valuable than the other day I'm pumping gas. I'm in a Chevron station. It says, "Hey, make sure to like Chevron on Facebook." And I thought, you know what? I'm going to stop my car in the middle of the road and just do that and get online, because there's nothing that would make me happier than liking Chevron on Facebook and tell them how much I enjoy their, drilling for oil in the Arctic, without a deep water port. I think that's just a fantastic idea. So I think this disconnect that I think there's a lot of people out there making money telling Chevron, you know what, you and British Petroleum may have had a bad year or two for PR, but just have people like you on Facebook, and that's one way to go. So I think it's...
And millions of people will like you.
Yes, exactly. I think that, there's. I had a column I wrote a while ago called last year called "Should You Post Press Releases in Social Media?" and a lot of different comments. But I think people are saying, you may want to post parts of it. And they're for investors, they're for stakeholders and people that already know about you. So the reason for both is, I think social media has a lot more informality.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that whatever your message is, you probably have to be a lot more, you have to be shorter, you have to be a lot more informal in social media.
All right, so I'm going to flip it back to you for a second here, Jim, because I heard both you folks talk about monitoring. You have to monitor, you have to measure. So, and there is noise and there is leads. I've heard both of you guys say that too. So you guys have done a wonderful job of going right down the middle on this one. Thank you so much for making my life interesting. Jim, you're the expert. How are some companies monitoring social media comments and trends today? Or flip it around, especially from a B2B point of view, should they even bother?
Definitely should bother the first. I mean, this is market research in the 21st century. You have to listen to the conversation. You can do surveys to find out what people will tell you, but if you monitor social media, you'll find out what they're saying about you to each other. You have a responsibility to pay attention to how your brand is perceived. So the monitoring tools and the monitoring services are there to help you determine, are you getting share of audience? So how much are you being discussed compared to your competitor? And what is the polarity? Is it positive or negative? So that's the bare minimum you should be doing, just to see if somebody's talking about you out there, so you can stay aware of the impression that you're making out in the world. But all your other questions, I mean, the answers truly are, it depends. Should you post press release? Well, it depends. If you're a big rock group and you decided to suddenly have a third night in a town you were only going to have 2 nights in, yeah, put that press release out there on social media and you'll sell tickets. If you're a car manufacturer and you've decided to add a new feature on your car, people really don't care. It's not a social media kind of thing. Different social media, different purposes, different communication tools can be used in different ways. But Robert's exactly right. You've got to use it differently. You're going to be short and sweet on Twitter. You're going to be fun and entertaining on Facebook. You can be a little longer on Google+. You've got to match what you're saying to the medium you're using.
Robert, how do you see? I mean, you're a communications expert. I mean, whether you believe in it or not, or in the middle, you still got to measure, right? And that's how you fundamentally make your case that other vehicles are better. How are you seeing them measure it today?
Social media effectiveness?
Yeah.
I am not. I've yet to. I mean, I get calls all the time from Hootsuite or Meltwater or Cision offering me products about, I don't know, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year, plus extra time that they can tell me they'll monitor for my clients, positive, negative, neutral, see how to reach the influencers and things like that. I think that the shortcut is trying to find the influencers on Facebook or LinkedIn and Twitter. It's the bigger media. I mean, if you think it's going to be someone like Paul Krugman of the New York Times, I don't think you need to worry about how many followers or Facebook likes he has. That's where I would find the influencers. So from the products I've seen and the high cost of them, I haven't recommended it for any of my clients.
So I think what I'm hearing you all say then indirectly, tell me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, is it's great for developing relationships with key individuals, whether that be your, specific customers or people on a common interest group. It could be the new iPhone. It could be a certain software product. It could be a telephone service. It's great for, working with other influencers or analysts, like you mentioned there, Robert. But for that classic, let's do a spray and pray. It's just a failed, miserable existence, and don't even bother. Did I wrap that up fairly well?
Yes. I'm not a huge. I would not be a huge consumer of that.
All right. So
again, if I was at possibly if my clients were a little bit bigger, it's possible.
So let's just carry on with you for a second there, Robert. So if that's the case, what are the best ways to engage prospects using social media? So, we want to develop that relationship, right? Talk to me. How do you do it?
I guess the key is the same thing with media relations. You try and find the influencers, and whether the quickest way to do it would be to find some of the people that you want to reach in the media, and get them on your LinkedIn groups, or get in your reach them on Facebook or Twitter. I'm trying to remember the Muck Rack. Has a lot of places where you can find journalists and posts and reach them via I think it's a product where you can reach them via Twitter by subject. I mean, they have a very good search engine. The free service just tells you what journalists are thinking, but the search engine, I think it's like $100 a month or something. But it's extremely good search engine. It might be worth trying for 1 month. But that's how I would do it, because then you can find the journalists by subject matter in your area and then send it to them.
And what's that service called again?
Muck Rack.
Muck Rack. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Jim, what has been your experience? I mean, because of your measuring point of view, you must have some interesting points of view on which ways are, quantifiably better to engage than others.
Absolutely. So first I want to measure how my market share, how much attention am I getting compared to my competitors. Then I want to measure the positive or negative part of it. Are they happy or are they not happy? Then I want to measure the impact that my participation has upon that baseline. So if I join the conversation, can I increase happiness? Can I increase share of voice? Then I want to measure business outcomes. Did it drive traffic? Were they qualified leads or not? And then finally, bottom line, was it worthwhile? Did it make money? Now, if I'm a small business, I just want to monitor and engage. If I've got 5,000 people only who care about me, then I might talk to 10 or 20 of them a week, and that's by the way, kind of over coffee in the morning. Fine, don't make it a big deal. But if I'm a big corporation, then I'm going to hire a team of people to closely monitor what people are saying about Adidas or Gatorade or Coca-Cola or Ford Motor Company, and engage and draw attention to where there are big spikes of problems. I mean, an influencer, classic influencer, as Robert says, yeah, I want to go to the major publications where their voices are heard and everybody repeats what they say. But if some guy in Poughkeepsie has a problem with my product and tweets about it in a funny way, it goes viral. If I'm not paying attention, I miss the fact that there's this influencer out there. So monitoring is the critical piece.
All right, let's bring this one step further. You talked about measuring an ROI. I mean, can you elaborate? How do you do that? I mean, we always hear people say you got to measure, you got to measure. How do you do it?
Yep. Well, the first answer to measuring is, what are you trying to accomplish? So if you're measuring the number of retweets and the number of followers and the number of likes, you've already lost, because those are just numbers and they don't tell you anything. Are you trying to launch a new product? Are you trying to gain market share? Are you trying to sell a new product to your old customers or sell an old product to new customers? What is your goal? Now we can roll it back to, well, if you're trying to accomplish X, here are the 7 things you need to do to accomplish that, and we can measure each of those 7 along the way. So measuring how many followers you have is just one little piece of the puzzle. What are your end goals is the real important part.
And it's funny. People always miss the goals and objectives. Like every client I speak with, it's the exact same way. They want to do something, and you ask them that question, and they look at you with a blank face. All right. So why don't we segue here?
I just want more people.
Yes, I hear that all the time. Why don't we segue here, because we're getting tons of questions coming in, and I'm almost anxious to get to the Q&A part. But let's wrap up our conversation here. Robert, I'm going to flip it to you. Maybe you give us your final thoughts wrapped up in a nutshell.
Absolutely, and I'll try not to read verbatim. But most of the time for public relations, especially public relations dissemination, social media is a waste of time. The reporters that I've talked to would rather be pitched first in email. They feel that Facebook especially is a little too personal, and it's like being interrupted at a dinner table and saying to someone, "Hey, could I have your autograph?" or that, while they're with the family or something. It's not the right situation. I would say more and more people, some people like Morgan Brennan of Forbes, says she's always on Facebook, she's always on LinkedIn, she's always on Twitter, she's always on email. It's blurred for her now. But I don't think it's there yet for everyone. When I look back on all the major placements that I've had from my clients in the last 2 years, none of them have come from social media. It's possibly I've met someone from there, and then it's filtered through there, but it's usually knowing a reporter, reading their stuff, contacting them from email, or knowing them already and getting the placement. And then I think finally there's only so many hours in a day. I mean, you want to spend 10 or 12 hours in a week or 2 weeks in getting another 100 followers for Twitter, or a bunch of people to like your photo at Legoland in San Diego, or would you rather get your client or yourself a story in the Wall Street Journal or your local paper? I still think that's just much, much more valuable.
Okay, we're going to let Jim have the last word, which I found with Jim is often the case. So, Jim, your final thoughts.
These are real straightforward and real simple. Pay attention to what people are saying out there. Have specific objectives in mind. Don't pay attention to the specific numbers, but to the outcomes. And those outcomes, it can be anything. It can be direct response, hey, we've got a sale on, or it can be branding. We want you to think we're cool because we support the green movement. But finally, it's not about advertising, and it's not about putting out press releases. It's about being transparent and authentically communicating with your audience. And it's not about amassing many, many followers. If you like us at Chevron, we'll give you $5 off your next tank of gas. Doesn't tell you how many people like you. It tells you how many people think you charge too much for gas. So be authentic and communicate with people. It's a communication channel. Use it that way instead of as a broadcast medium.
It's true. It's relational. It's totally relational. And that's what I always tell all of our customers who ask those same questions. If you're not relational, don't bother. Don't even make the mistake of starting into a relationship on social media if you're not going to be relational. With that, folks, this initial 29-minute session is now up, and you're free to go, and we thank you for coming. If you have a few more minutes, though, we're going to get into the questions that you yourselves have submitted. And the good news is, as you listen to this and you're engaged and you hear a sound bite or something and you want to share it with somebody, the good news is we're recording it all. And it will be available in the next several days right at onpath.com in our events library. But not to worry, because we're actually going to email you and let you know when it's available. So by all means, share that with your friends or family. In fact, you know what you should do? You should get on social media and be relational with your network and use this recording as an opportunity to start a discussion that matters to the community, and then measure the results and engage your target audience. That's what you should do. How do you do those questions? As we said before, you can do it on Twitter, #SocialRodeo, or you can do it in your GoToWebinar control panel under questions. Just do that. We'll get them in real time. The nice thing is that Robert and Jim do not know what's coming down the pipe at them. So if you hear them stammer, stutter, or hesitate, you know you've asked a good question. That's always my goal when I do this as the MC. Let's see. Where do we want to start here, gentlemen? Here we go. Do some tools or social media platforms work better for different audiences? And you guys touched on this a little bit. I heard things about, use Google Plus for this and LinkedIn for that, and Facebook's a little personal. So from a B2B point of view, can you give maybe some succinct advice on the tools for the audience for the purpose?
Yeah, this is Jim. I'll start off. I'll grab that one first because I'm the measure guy, and everybody in measurement knows that the best thing you can do is test. Try it, measure it, see what the results are. So maybe your audience is really active on Twitter, or maybe a certain segment of them are. Maybe they're really active on some LinkedIn group you didn't know existed. But go out and try the different things and see where you get the best response.
Robert, how about your point of view? And I know you're not an advocate necessarily, but have you seen success on any certain tools for certain audiences?
I would say if you're looking to fill a position at your office, LinkedIn is actually very, very good. If you're trying to get people to come to like a last-minute event, let's say you're having you're trying out a new beer or something at this new club, and you're a publicist for that. I think Twitter is great for that. I think Facebook, the one thing I've seen is successful for Facebook is in Redondo Beach, where I live, we've had a no power plant. We've had to get 7,000 signatures to get in a ballot for March 2013. A lot of people didn't know about it from reading the newspaper, and they didn't know from listening to radio or the stories in the LA Business Journal or every time we were in front of a supermarket. But they could see the pollution from the photographs on Facebook and then enter into a conversation there. So I think sometimes for social causes, it could be good.
I think
Robert's right on the money.
Yeah. And if I look at a common theme there, social causes you meant, right? One thing you mentioned there, I mentioned the iPhone 5 launch recently. It's things around community, identifying something you have a good community in, Twitter rocks very much there. When I couldn't get my iPhone 5 activated for several hours, I spent all my time on my iPhone 4 looking at Twitter to make sure I wasn't alone, and then just, commiserating and blaming my carrier. Didn't help speed up the process, but it was therapeutic. What do we got here? PR firms. What do we got? I got a question about PR firms here. Robert, can anyone pitch media contacts, or should someone from a PR firm do the pitching? So not necessarily social media, but indirectly that's part of pitching. So who should pitch the PR firms or the PR contacts?
The PR firm. There's a reason why even famous actors have agents and managers. It's very hard to negotiate for yourself. Same thing if you go to court. Most people have an attorney, unless it's a traffic ticket. It's very hard to argue for yourself. It's very hard to be unemotional. And also, if I'm pitching for a client, I may already know that reporter and have a relationship with them, or I'll know how to talk to that reporter. The number one thing you can do in public relations is to think like a reporter. So that means, why should I write this story, and why should I do it now? And if you can help the reporter answer those questions and come up with a good story idea and help them fill 10 minutes on the hourly newscast or 12 to 15 inches on a column, then you are doing them a favor and you're doing your client a favor. If you can do it yourself, you're the very rare exception. I found very few people who can do it themselves.
I feel the same way about plumbing. I'd rather have the plumber come in than have the plumber come in and have to fix what I screwed up.
Yes.
Jeez, Jim, I'm not sure where to go with that one because I've got 1,000 punchlines in my head right now. I'm so confused. One of the things, I appreciate that. I'm building off one of the things that Robert mentioned. He talked about, what are they looking for? What is that reporter looking for? What is your audience looking for? Whether it's a prospect or customer, what have you. Think of, I guess, and dovetailing back to that PR press release conversation earlier about what do you put in a press release? Do you put a press release in the wire, or Robert's comment was maybe a piece of it? Well, and in fact, that's what we do here at OnPath. So we'll take this webinar, I'll give an example. We'll take this webinar today, and it will be promoted on social media, social rodeo, pro versus con, etc. But that may not engage my target audience. But maybe one of the topics we talked about, how do you measure, will. So what we do to do that is we also take this exact same webinar and we will splice it up into mini vignettes, one for each of the major topics we covered today, and promote those as well. So we're using different pieces of bait to engage our audience. And often those little vignettes work way better than the big picture webinar. So using a piece of your press release, using a piece of a webinar, always about what is it they're looking for, what brings them to the social media platform, can you engage them, can you drive traffic? Here we go here. I like this question. This question, it's provocative. It says, it seems social media needs engagement to work well. Okay, that's pretty, we've come to that conclusion. Other than conversation, is there any other good form of engagement or engaging your target audience? That's really big picture. So I guess I would put it this way. Before social media, how do we engage your audience? And does that still work? I'll go back to you, Robert.
I think it was in person. I think the social networking was at the Chamber of Commerce or the Public Relations Society of America event, or your annual, American colleges, Association of Colleges and Business Schools, and that was the social networking. And then people after that started forming online, chat rooms or groups, or maybe GeoCities was the precursor for that, and then just having really long conference calls. But social media has certainly expanded the chance to have groups internationally. But it's also very good for micro targeting, like in Cairo with the Egyptian summer. But I think the quick answer is it probably has been done in person more for the groups. beforehand.
I'm going to segue this next question over to Jim, and because it's probably more of a metrics perspective. The question is this: is social media age sensitive? So is it more effective to a millennial versus a baby boomer?
So many of these questions are so 1995. My customers are not on the inner tube yet, so why should I build a website? It's only kids who are using Twitter and Facebook. Why should I do it? You should do it because those kids are going to grow up, and you're going to need to know how to do it well. So is it age sensitive? Yes. If you're trying to reach somebody who is in their 20s, then you need to be on social media. If you're trying to reach somebody in their 60s, they are all over Facebook because they want to look at pictures of their grandchildren. So completely, it depends. Is it age sensitive? Yes. There is a certain age group at the moment who's all excited about Google+. I'm older than that. There are a lot of people who are excited about Twitter, but it's industry specific, it's product specific. It depends is, I'm afraid, always the right answer.
See, from my point of view, I look at it differently, and I'm actually going to support what you're saying. I look at the typical B2B business cycle, sales cycle, and I'll say, the guy who signs the check is not the guy that goes out there and does the actual initial research and shortlisting of vendors or solutions. So there's going to be a market that is going to be very active in social media that's going to be at one stage of your sales funnel for sure. Is social media helping you at the middle of the funnel or bottom of the funnel? Not nearly as much. Is it helping you at the top of the funnel as you got the actual users, which is a younger crowd typically earlier in their career, and they're the ones incurring the pains and wanting to fix this? Absolutely. So like anything else in your sales cycle, you want to target the message and the audience and the tools, to your champion at that point of the sales cycle. But that's just my point of view.
Please don't forget how much social media can help underneath the bottom of the funnel, which is your customer.
Huge.
It's a great tool for customer service.
Yeah. And in fact, back to my iPhone 5 launch, I was so frustrated because what happened, and for those who don't know, I'm based out of Canada, and it seems only Canadian carriers went boom on the iPhone launch day. And yet, the carrier I was with, I was on Twitter nonstop saying, am I missing something here? Is there a handle they have that I don't know about? Just some kind of statement, one little statement that says, yes, our servers are overwhelmed and we're going to be at least another hour. Nothing. Yet there's another carrier that I'm not with who did do that. And right away, I gave pause to say, maybe I need to move to them because they get customer service.
Bingo.
And by the way, I'm not millennial. We'll leave it at that. So.
If you're trendy,
yeah.
You got the iPhone 5.
I am.
So here's the question I have for you is, when you get better devices, do you get better messages?
Great question.
Or are we still stuck with the same people and the same,
That's a good question.
That's my only question.
Crap.
Yes.
Jim, I'm more focused on being cool and hip than actually having knowledge, so let's just leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Are you wearing a pork pie hat right now?
Okay. I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, gentlemen, we're about 15 minutes before the hour. I want to give our audience time to go on to their next meeting. Any final thoughts that we haven't covered in the core content or in this Q&A that you think is worthy of sharing with the audience? And I'll go to you first, Robert.
I think don't turn off your audience by preaching at them. And I think just keeping a conversation going may be the way. It's not like don't ask for marriage on the first date and try to get a sale or a placement or something right away. I think a lot of what Jim has said has been spot on. It's building a community, it's building a relationship, and keeping those rules. And then also, it is another platform for email, no matter what Facebook wants to tell you about how they're changing the world, but that's exactly what it is. And so I think having patience is very key. and there is no magic app. Whether you sign up for Cision or Hootsuite or Muck Rack or anything like that, you may have to try a few of them and see what's cost effective and time effective for you. But I'm thinking that you're just going to get on Vocus or Cision or something and pay $10,000 and write a press release and everyone's going to get it and you're going to be on the front page of the New York Times tomorrow is pure fantasy.
Before we let Jim have the last word again, you'll notice, I want to point out that the whole time we've had their contact information up on the screen in front of you. And both Robert and Jim bring incredible wisdom in this space. Not to mention, they have a phenomenal following. So if you want to get into, followers and communities and what have you. So please rush out right now with your favorite Twitter client and follow Rob and follow Jim. And while you're there, why not? Follow me too. I'd love it. Jim, last thought. It's all yours.
Let's see. First of all, Robert and I are in violent agreement. Happy birthday to your daughter, Robert.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And final word is know what your objectives are. Have specific goals and measure against them. Otherwise, you're just flailing around. You need to know why you're doing it.
Well, there's the master giving us his wisdom. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, it was a fun conversation today. And, I knew this was going to happen. For those wondering, we never really know what we're going to talk about in these webinars. We have a framework. Clearly, you see that in the PowerPoint slides. But, Jim and Robert, like all our panelists, they kind of meet once before the show. And what we had the conversation when they met, we simply said, even though you're on polar opposites in your point of view, guaranteed you're going to end up agreeing at least 80% of the time. And it seems you might have even exceeded that. You were phenomenally helpful. Thank you for coming, folks. If you like this show, again, we have a complete library. Just go check it out at onpath.com at our resources library. And be sure to register for future webinars here at this station. Thanks a lot, folks. It's been great talking to you. Have a very good day.